In Ois Zayin, the Rebbe explains, in Ois Zayin, the Rebbe explains further why the avoida in a way with the Rochecha the Eyu Masech L'Shem Shemayim in Yoni Rishus elevates the person even higher than when he works with regular mitzvahs. Zayin. So der Biur beprotis Yosef in the Ilu Hatshuva, more detailed explanation in the advantage of tshuva was ver der greich durch der avoida that is reached through the service of Bechol Masecha Chulu and Bechol Drachecha Chulu, Oiv der Tshuva from Kvishas HaYetzer, over, above the Tshuva from just conquering the Yetzer when you're trying to do a mitzvah. Was is da ich in der Aveda von Torah mitzvahs? That would apply also when there is the service of Torah mitzvahs. So what is the advantage? Eine von the Miles in Avedas HaTshuva Kipshute is one of the advantages of Avodas HaTshuva literally is was Tshuva bringt arois dem Teukef von der Hiskashrus von Aid mit Neberstein. The Tshuva, that brings out the force of the connection that a Yid has with Hashem. As the Hiskashrus verliert sich nicht chas v'sholem, that connection is not lost, God forbid, afilu dur chachet, even if there is a sin, it's still not lost. Was der Far Kenner, and because it's not lost, he's able to. He still can do tshuva. Al derech zeh is euch benegeye dem inyan hatshuva, and similarly, it's with regard to tshuva vosido in der avoido beridas the avoidos hanishom beridos olamata, that the soul descends over here below, and what does it say that it's tshuva? That notwithstanding that it expresses this great connection to Hashem, as in them zokt sich harois begilui, that here you can see openly that toikev his kashrus from the neshama mit neighborsten, the force of that connection of that knot of binding of the soul with Hashem, as when sie is ongeton guf nefesh habam yetzer also when it's dressed up. In the body, the nefesh habam in the Yetzer is verbunden mit Neubersten durch Avodas Hashem. She is still connected with Hashem through the service of Hashem. It shows when the neshama comes down in a guf, but even though it shows by all the avoid of mitzvahs, Torah mitzvahs, simply that the sin does not have an ability to distract, but it more shows and sever that connection, but it shows even more when it comes to Inyone Harushus. Is verstandig that ilu von der teshuva. So based on this, we understand the advantage of the teshuva was ver der greich durch ton Inyone Harushus l'shem shemayim, that we reach when you do optional matters for the sake of the Hashem. The Gabi der tshuva relative to the tshuva was is doing the Aveda von Torah mitzvahs, the tshuva that is by the service of Torah mitzvahs. And why? In the Aveda von Torah mitzvahs, zokt sich harois der toikes ha'hiskashrus. When we do this work on Torah mitzvahs, so the force of that connection expresses itself from the neshama in them. How do we see the expression of the force of the soul? Then was euch seindig in Guf and Nefesh HaBabis, that notwithstanding that while it is still in the body and the animal soul, hat sie bekoyach zu starken sich über sie, she has the power to overpower them, und aris gain von sie, and to leave them, toshash yitzrei, to weaken his Yetzer. That's when you do teshuva, or you do the avodah in Torah mitzvahs. Aber durch dem aber was euch die Yonne Reshutzus l'shem shemayim. However, when also in addition, it also does the optional matters l'shem shemayim chulu, bringt sich harois, that expresses as his kashrus is afili in the Yonim vus is nirgesh the rotzim b'nefesh habas. Then you can, it's expressed, it comes out from that that the connection of the soul is not only when you're doing a mitzvah and you're weakening the Yetzer Hara, but even in aspects where the Yetzer Hara is, that even in those matter, in Yonim Vusis Nirgish Zerotzov Nefesh Hamis, and still the person does it l'shem shamayim. So that's a deeper level of his kashrus. We're talking about in the number one advantage, as we said before, from the neshama coming down into this world, in the purpose that there's an aliyah in the neshama itself. And the Rebbe explains that aliyah of the neshama itself, it comes out with more force when the neshama works within Yonei Harishus and does them l'shem shamayim more than when the neshama does the mitzvahs, which it has to do by force, but that only expresses his kashrus that can weaken the Yetzer Hara when it comes to mitzvahs. But here, even in the teva of the nefesh habahamis, in the rochecha and the eyu, and still he stays connected is l'shem shamayim. But this level is still only an advantage in the neshama. The real accomplishment is when we change it in the dira b'tachtonim in the Yonei Rishus. Ches, but still is oich der ilu for the neshama. Also, this advantage of the soul, that ilu from tshuva was ver dur chasiyas in Yonei Rishus l'shem shamayim v'chulu. The advantage of tshuva that becomes through doing worldly matters l'shem shamayim. So we're saying that the neshama gets bigger. That doesn't come yet. Kumni to the ilui. This does not come to the highest, to the third level. Inyan hagimel del il sivhei, the third aspect that we said before, the sivhei, in which when we're mevarer the nitzutzes, we make a dir betachtonim, and over there dafke in the Yonei Harishus was tutzich oif in ir, that is accomplished. The neshama gets a higher level, not because it reaches just the level of teshuva, the kashrus that we see, but through changing the world around in Yonei Rishus. In the fact that it makes a dwelling place for Hashem, that gives the neshama the greatest thing. One of the connections, one of the explanations is the kashrus from the neshama mit Neibishten is verbunden mit ihrem Metzias. The tying and the bound of the soul with Hashem is tied to the existence unteva of the neshama, the river. And therefore, Hagam as the teva hahis kashrus is mitatoikev, even though that this nature of that bind is with this kashrus is with a force, was that remains in its wholesomeness even when it's dressed in a shemamis. The baldo berazdos is the teva for their mitzias, but since this, however, is the nature of the mitzias of the neshama, is doing them hagbola. There is a limitation to it. But when the neshama deals and makes a dir b'tachtonim, megala de ein sof, there is no limit. Masha'enkin durch them, as opposed through this, was the neshama poilt. The neshama impacts as the nyona oilum zol veren kelim delikus, that the worldly matter should become vessels for godliness. Bald ados was zei veren kelim tzolikus, the fact that they become vessel to godliness, kumnit mitzad zeyer tevel mitzias. That does not come because their nature and their mitzias, their connection to Hashem, because they themselves are tava, they are the woman material, they're Yonei Rishus, the mitzias from oilam, meloshen helam, the existence of the world, which comes from the language of helam, obscure, is milo master velikus, that hides and blocks godliness. Nor, so how do they become vessels for godliness, the Yonei Rishus, or the worldly matters, all worldly matters, nor mitzad them oibeshn. This comes from Hashem. Bosayois as sein Achdus hat nit kein Agbolis, since Hashem's unity has no limitations, can the Riber Euch der Olam sein Adirle Yisborich. That's why the world can also be a dwelling place for him, blessed. Is durch them. Now we're going to play, so we understand that by making a Diribet Tachtoinim, it's a much higher level for the Neshama, the Aliyah that the Neshama gets is through them, was the Neshama. Macht und Welt Adira zum Ebersten, through this, that the soul makes out of this world a dwelling place to Hashem, bring the mita rois the blik full von Achdusah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And by doing that, it brings out the infinite of Hashem's unity, that Hashem is in everything, even in the Gashmis, even in the Teva, even in the nature. Wird euch his kashrus mit Neibusher, so then the Neshama connection to Hashem, Nit nor we see is mitzad ir mitzi is not only as it is from its existence from the soul's entity being the mitzias, nor vidos is mitzad achdusah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but that connection becomes as it comes because of Hashem's unity, HaKadosh Baruch Hu unity, which is not limited. So it turns out that through the avodah in the world, and making Adir Lo Yisborich B'Tachtoinim, the elevation of the soul is to the level of Bligvul, versus the limitation of connecting through its soul, even at the highest of level, it's still measured. Now, the Rebbe is going to bring out that notwithstanding the great elevation, this is still not the ultimate goal of the descent of the neshama to this world. The descent of the neshama to the world, the Rebbe is going to ask us, seems to be explained differently in different places, but we know that the neshama in itself doesn't need the tikkun. We came down to serve Hashem, and the ultimate goal is even more than just the neshama coming to this highest level that we explained till now. Tes, ot die aliyas zu welchen the neshama kommt zu durch ihre lamata. These elevations that the soul reaches because it descended below, and of course, as the Rebbe is going to say, the soul deserves it because it accomplishes all that, but yet that's not the ultimate yet. That is not the ultimate intent of the descent, so that the neshama should get to this highest level of ligvul, or the level of connection to Hashem, despite everything. That's not yet the ultimate goal. Since everything Hashem created was for His honor, and I was created to serve Hashem. So it's all about Hashem. It's not for me. It's not for my soul. It's for the Eibishter. It's verstandig. It's understood as the tachlis hamekuven from Brius Odom, that the ultimate intent of creation of the person, Yuridis HaNeshama Lamato, and the Neshamas descend below, is not to leave that aliyah from the Neshama. It's not because of the elevation of the soul. But bichdei durchzuführen dem Eibishter's kavona, but that is in order to accomplish Hashem's intent. That's what we came down. We didn't come down to benefit the neshama, but we came down to do Hashem's intent. Now, the Alter Rebbe sagt in Tanya, similar as the Alter Rebbe states in the Tanya, as Yeridas HaNeshama Lamato is nit l'tzerich HaNeshama, that the descent of the soul below is not for the needs of the soul, nor bichdei zu iber machen dem guf v'nefesh ha'chayum mechelke ba'olam. But rather, the neshama comes down to transform the body, the guf. The nefesh hachiyun is the vitalizing soul, and the portion that a person has in the world, that he has to lekashram uliyachdom to tie them and to unite them in the infinite. Blessed be He, and that's the goal. Was durch them that way, through the person tying his body nefesh chayom chelke ba'olam through his avodah and tying them in the Ein Sof, that will accomplish oisfirin the kavona, the intent for the Sava Kodesh Baruch Hu l'yislei dir b'tachtonim. Hashem's intent to have a dir b'tachtonim. As his nor was, Yois as the neshama is divos firto is the kavana now. It's only so. If we're saying that it's for my purpose is not for getting reward for the neshama. So why is there a reward for the neshama? Because the neshama accomplishes this, so the neshama gets rewarded. But that's not the ultimate goal. As is nor, as the neshama is the spirito is the kavana now. Since the neshama is the one that accomplishes that intent, kumtir fardem as schar toiv leinketz. She deserves a good reward, an endless good reward. So neshama is an elevation for this, but that's not still the goal. The far, but that's why also the neshama gets a tremendous and wondrous elevation endlessly. Okay, but in other places, darf man verstehen. So we need to understand these dos masim the meat was steht becoming bekommen. How does this fit in what it is brought down in many places? Ad yiridis haneshama lemata is bishvila aliyah. Over there, it seems like the purpose, the objective of the soul coming down below is so, or it has the aliyah. Was das meint, when we say l'chayda, as the aliyah and the neshama is not an Indian study, it doesn't mean that it's a side matter. That you're just getting it because you are the one that worked at it, so you're going to get a reward for the neshama. But over there, it's mashma in many places that's actually the goal of the descent. The tam v'tachzon yerida, that's the reason and the goal of its descent. So how do we reconcile that the main thing is the dira b'tachtonim, and the person is just getting the reward because he accomplishes that, or with the other places where it says that the goal is for the person to be elevated. Yud. Is the birid then b'ktzora koponim explanation? Please doing it in a short way. Says Yudua in the inyan from dira lo yizbarach v'tachtonim. It's known in this idea when we say to make Hashem a dwelling place in the lower, as davke tachtonim verna dira lo yizbarach lo yilatzmusay, that it's specifically the lower ones can become a dwelling place for him, and loy means to the essence of Hashem. Hashem's presence can be in the spiritual, holier world, higher worlds as well. But loy, latzmusay, he has to come down. The only place that he can become a dir is in this world. In El Yonim Zanemer Giluyim, the upper ones over there is revelations. As opposed to the lower ones, Vern Adir Latzmusay will become a dwelling place for his blessed essence. Und der Inyan was Atzmus gefindt sich davke lemato. And this idea that Atzmus, the essence of Hashem, finds itself specifically here below, is verbunden damit, that is tied to the fact, was davki in olam haze is dod der bittel von ein oid. That specifically in this world, the highest form of bittel, ein oid. See, there is a lower level of bittul that things are considered like nothing, but ein oid, that there is nothing, that's in this world. Nit vi nelmas in yonim. Unlike as in the upper worlds, was in zei is der bittul von kilo. Over there, the bittul is like it's not, but here it's nothing. Ein oid. As the kavone is as the dir soll sich öfton durch avodas adam davke, since the intent is that this dwelling place should be accomplished by the work of the person specifically. Darf the riber euch die avoda. So therefore, also that work, this work that he does, that he makes up this dwelling place for Hashem, zayin bebchinas lebitl legamri. He has to be, in a way, totally subjugated. This to the extent he has to have such a subjugation, so self-negation, versus me'ain from bittul von einoid, which is similar to the bittul of einoid. So because that's what we want in the world is einoid. So when the person in the bittul touch we want the service should also carry that, some sort of that level of bittul. For as if the bittul for an evet poshut, that's the bittul of a very simple servant, serving his master. And when we say a simple servant, serves the master is not because he understands who the master is or he appreciates his greatness. He just does it because that's his master. Was kommt, as service David Poshet nit mitzad dem was is margish aflos od mekitz. It's not because he senses, he feels, oh, my master, how great he is. But mitzad dem od nalein, it comes because the master alone. According to this, we can say those was state become a mekomis. This that it's written in many places. As Yiridis and Neshama Lamata Bishvil Ha'aliyah, that the Neshama comes down because of the elevation, is verbunden damit was steht in Tanya. That is connected to what it says in the Tanya. As Yiridis and Neshama Lamata is vichdei durchzuführen, the Kavona von Dile B'tachtoin. Is the descent of the Neshama Lamata is to accomplish the intent of Dile B'tachtoin. And it's still because of the Aliyah. But the Aliyah's Neshama is doch was sie kommt zu Beginnas Bittel. The Aliyah of the Neshama is that it reaches the level of Bittel. As your Avodah is not Mitzias, the Avodah is not because of her Mitzias, no Mitzad Achdusha, LaKadosh Baruch Hu, Simches, but it's because Hashem's unity, as said before, Simches, that is the level of Bittel. Unider Kavone von Dir B'tachtoinim, and the intention of Dir B'tachtoinim. What does Hashem want? And that's what is being accomplished, because the Neshama is actually doing the Dir B'tachtoinim. He's doch negeas the Vayeitzei Neshama, was to if the Dir is Ozayim B'chinas Bittul. Over there we want the Neshama that is accomplishing the Dir should be in a level of Bittul. This is a very deep point that needs to be elaborate, but basically the point is that these are not two separate inyanim, because the person that does the avodah, that the neshama reaches taka the level that we're trying to do with Dir B'tachtoinim, which is the level of ein oid and the total bittul, and that is accomplished through the avodas haneshama and the Dir B'tachtoinim. Ois Yud Aleph. Api kol hanal velun verstandig werden die vier inyanim hanal. Based on all the above, now we'll understand the four above mentioned aspects, was in Hemshech HaKsuvim, which is in the flow of the verses from Vayitar Yaakov Neder. Pasuk Chof Aleph, and Chof Beis, we're discussing. Seidit Zwei Inyonim from Tanai, both matters of the condition that Yaakov said, if, what are the two Tanai? Aleph, number one, Yi Elikim Modi in the Pasuk Chof, Yi Elikim Modi Ushmarani Ukoimer, V'nosan li lechem lechel beged lubash. Hashem will be with me and guard me and give me the bread to eat and the garment to wear. Min Hashemayim, that Hashem will give that. Beis, and Pasuk Chof Aleph, V'shavti b'sholem el beis Avi. I will return in peace to beis Avi. Was von Zeir Farnander Telung in zwei Psukim. The fact that these two conditions have been divided in two separate psukim is moving as is eine zwei Psukim canal. So it's understood that these are two categories. Usaydet zwei inyonim von dem Neder, and also the two aspects of the Neder, which the Pirush Ramban is Aleph V'hoy Hashem L'Elikim. That's the end of Pasuk Chof Aleph, the second part. V'hoy Hashem L'Elikim. That's already part of the vow. On Beis, and the second thing, even Azois, Asher Samti Matzeva Yir Beis Elikim, in Pasuk Chof Beis, was Euch Zei Temel Zich in Zwei Psukim, which is also in two Psukim. According to the Ramban, the fulfillment of it comes in from the second Pasuk. Der Tachlis HaMekuvan, the Tachlis HaMekuvan is Ka'omur Li'il Sif Aleph, the Neder. The ultimate goal is the vow. As the Rebbe said before, he wasn't looking to get the Gashmis or the other promises. He was the opportunity to be able to do it for the Neder. When the Tanai is not the Weg, wie zu können durchführen im Neder. Condition is only the means by which he's able to accomplish the vow. Pi Hanal. And based on the above, as the tachlis for Yeridas HaNeshama b'shtei tzvei protim. That's the goal of the descent of the neshama. Consists of two details. Number one, Aleph b'shvil aliyas haneshama, for the elevation of the soul. And number two, b'chdei tz'oivton d'dire b'tachtonim, in order to accomplish Hashem's dwelling b'tachtonim. Unazoi oich in avodah was bring to them. And also the service. So the goal is the elevation of the neshama d'dire b'tachtonim, and the avodah that brings to that seine dot zwei inyonim. There are two aspects. The avodah von Torah mitzvahs and the avodah von kol masech l'shem shamayim. And the service of a kol masech l'shem shamayim. Darf auskommen, as die zwei inyonim von dem Tanai seien die zwei Zug avodah now. So it turns out that the two ideas of this condition are the two types of avodas. He's going to do these two avodas, which will bring the two types of rewards. The pasuk Chof, which says Hashem will be with me and guard me and give me lechem lechel beged lilbush, food to eat and a garment to wear. That is the power that one gets from above, so that he can stay away from Ra. To be careful to guard oneself from sins. Ushmorani. Shmarani is to guard. On oich, if I say Torah, limudat Torah v'kiyum mitzvahs, and the study of Torah and observance of mitzvahs, all in this pasuk. Ushmorani is to guard me from bad. Nosim lechem lechel ubeged l'bush. Those are mitzvahs. Limudat Torah v'kiyum mitzvahs. Lechem ubeged. Torah is lechem, food, mozin. Terosh chabesich meyai, and begodim are the levushim. Un v'shavti b'sholem. So that's the pasuk Chof, which is the power you get from above. Un v'shavti b'sholem goymer is the avodah in divrei reshus. That's the work in the optional matters. But his dugmas inyan hatshuva, which is similar to the tshuva. V'shavti, I will return. Trotz dem was sein his askus in divrei reshus. Is der far was the nefesh abahamis reitzubahim, notwithstanding the fact that the reason he is occupying himself in the optional matters is because that's what the wish of nefesh abahamis. You know, from deswegen, yeah, seine euch die inyonim im nit meiriden ra. Also, these aspects do not bring the person back, don't descend and don't bring him down to bad. Sholem in achet shelo elmen b'darkei lovan, as Rashi translates, b'shavti b'sholem, that he shouldn't learn from the ways of Lovan. Varum tut zei nit lemalis tavosin l'shem shamayim, because he doesn't use them just to fulfill his desire, but he does l'shem shamayim. And these are the two conditions in both doing Torah mitzvahs in pasuk Chof and pasuk Chof Aleph to do the avodah of avodas harishus. Und die zwei Züge avodah bringen zu die zwei Inyonim von Eder. These two types of service bring to the two aspects, ideas of Eder, which is the kavanah tachlis yiris haneshama lamata. That's the intent and the goal of the neshama is to descend below. Frier, the first one is Vahoya Hashem Lilelikim. That's according to the Ramban in the second part of Pasuk Chof Aleph. The Aliyah for mention. Shem Lilelikim, that means the person's elevation. The Neshama. Und noch, Even Azois, Pasuk Chof Beis, Even Azois Goymer Yeh Beis Elikim. Then we're talking about the Even Azois that is going to be a base, a house for Elikim. The direlo is but the dwelling place for Hashem in the lower worlds. Unayos as iker aliyas and neshama is kinal sivches. The main elevation of the soul, as mentioned before, is sivches, was the gate Arois for the mitzvah is that she goes out of her mitzvah. The elevation is to go higher than the mitzvahs of the tava of the neshama itself. Und sie ist over das Hashem nicht mitzad der tava. She serves Hashem not because of his nature, nor mitzad dem Obersten, but because of Hashem was is nimtza b'chol mokim. Oich in yonei ha'olam, but because of Hashem who finds himself everywhere. In Yonah Olam, the Eibishter is everywhere in Lo Yachshich, and he's also over there. The Achdus of Hashem is mispashet into the worldly matters. Wazayin mitalachus that are not godly. The Riber is the Seder HaKosu. So that's why the order of the Pasuk is. As Vahoyo Havaye Li Lelikim. Kum mit ein Hemshech mit Levan Azois, according to the Ramban. The Havaye Li Lelikim comes with one continuation with the Evan Hazois, Yiyah Beis Elikim. Ubeshain HaRambam, as the Ramban says, Eved Hashem HaMiyuchad, B'mokoim HaEvan Hazois Sheti Li Beis Elikim. That I will serve the Eberster, the unique, and Hashem himself, in the place where this stone is, will be the Beis Elikim. That will be the Beis HaMikdash. As an Aveda Vetzich Onhern, that in his service you will sense viziz nit mitzad zayin tava, that not as it is because of his nature, nor bedugmas or even hazois shetili lebeis elikim, but rather that this is going to be similar to the avodah of the beis elikim, so that even in his avodah, it's going to be sense that it's going to be a Beis Elikim. Because those of us Evan Azois, but Zayin Beis Elikim, how is this Evan going to become Beis Elikim? Is doch nor mitzad dem was achdus shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bligvul. That is because Hashem's oneness is bligvul. That's why the Eibishter comes down and makes a Beis Elikim the Direi B'Tachtonim in the Evan Hazois. So, therefore, the Vahoyo Hashem Lelikim, which is accomplishment, that Hashem Lelikim needs to be with one flow with Evan Hazois. But Apopikin is Vahoyo Havai Lelikim and impossible to Shavti B'Sholem. But still, the Ramban has it in one pasuk with B'Shavti B'Sholem, unit mit Va'evan Hazois. Even though that Hashem Li Lelikim is together with B'Shavti B'Sholem, and yet it goes with V'Hoy Hashem Li Lelikim with B'Shavti B'Sholem, unit mit Va'evan Hazois. Balayois as the Tachlis HaMekuvan in the Yeridas HaNeshama Lemato is nid the Aliyas HaNeshama. Since the ultimate goal of the descent of the neshama below is not for the elevation of the soul, nor to durchführen the kavanah from Direi B'Tachtonim, but it is to accomplish the intent of Direi B'Tachtonim. Kinal Siktas. That it is that inyan, the river is that inyan for Havaya Li Lelikim, but still Havaya Li Lelikim, the person gets an elevation, but that's not really the ultimate kavanah. The ultimate kavanah is the Direi B'Tachtonim. Havai Li Lelikim is only an elevation of the neshama. Yeridat Tzorech Aliyah. Afal pi adosia teitzof the avodah. That's a result of the avodah. That because of the avodah, he reaches the level of Hashem Li Lelikim, Yeridat Tzorech Aliyah, and the Aliyah is HaNeshama. Shaykh, but therefore, while this is part of the Avodah, Shaykh Mer B'Prat Echot. So in one aspect, it's more high mitzad the roiv was is noch nit der emes tachlis. The fact, even though that is already a goal, but it's not the ultimate goal. So in that aspect, some Tanai, that's why it's connected a little bit to the Tanai, which is the Avodah, which is the work of Shavti B'Sholem. Because while it is, according to the Ramban, V'Hoya Hashem Li Lelikim is already the Avodah, but because it's not the ultimate avodah, so it's still part of the process. It's part of this b'shavti b'sholim, and it's part of the part of the Tanai. The second part, the second passage, that's a more uh, that's a more the idea that it's going to be the total kavod. So this is according to the Ramban. The Shloimar, the Rebbe says in Yud Beis, Oich le pirush Rashi. As v'hoya avayli l'likim is nit the neder nor the tna. Also according to Rashi, Hashem l'likim, it says that's not the vow, that's the condition. Hoya Hashem l'likim. Is v'hoya Hashem l'likim a prat, but it's a detail need in avodas haneshama biridos lamato, but it's a detail not in the service of the neshama as it descends below, nor in the aliyah, was vert durch der avodah. This is an elevation that comes through the avodah. Al derech v'lepirush Ramban. Even though Rashi teaches v'hoya Hashem l'elikim, that that is a Tanai, but like in the Rambam we said that that's already the neder. But we can say the same thing according to Rashi, that this is not a detail of the service in Neshama below, but it's part of the Aliyah that takes place through the Avodah, as according to the Rambam, that's already the neder, that's already the fulfillment. Warum der Inyan von Sheyochel Shmoy Olai, was Rashi teaches that it means that Sheyochel Shmoy Olai mitchila v'atzoif shlo yimotzei psul bezari, that the name should rest on me from the beginning, and no disqualification in my seed. Ashmoy shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu zol chal zayin, nit nor in Zayin Techila. The names of that Hashem's name should rest not only in the beginning, but also in his end, in Zari, even to the extent his seed that descend from him can sein nur durch dem, was in sein his kashrus mit dem Ebersten, that can only happen when his connection with the Ebersten is the Tokein Hagbolis, is there's no limitations. So this is actually the fulfillment of the avodah. That's the kiyumat tonight. That's the neder, just like according to the Ramban. So why does Rashi put it in the tonight? Unit in neder vil pirush Ramban is the aliyah. The reason for that is the aliyah from the neshama is not a hachona zum tachlis hamukumen from even azois here basically is because the elevation that the neshama itself gets elevated, which is the V'hoy Hashem li l'elikim, that talks about the elevation of the neshama, the yedid tzedek aliyah for the neshama. That's only a preparation tachlis hamukumen even azois basically and that's why it's in a separate pasuk. And now the Rebbe is going to say in Yud Gimel, why is this difference between the Rashi and the Ramban? Yud Gimel, Shloimar, as der Tam for Bosli Pirush Rashi is V'hoya Havai Lile Likim. Why, according to Rashi, is Havai Lile Likim a prat in Tanai? According to Rashi, it's a detail in the condition. The Pirush Ramban is a prat in Neder, it's a detail in the vow. The V'hoya Shem Likim. Pirush Rambam zanedon nit nor pshotim. According to Rambam, there's not only simple, also sweet things, as the Ramban says, for those who know chen, know the Kabbalah. That's connected to Giluyim. Umitzad hagiluyim, from the perspective of Giluyim, which is the Ramban's view, Ramban's style, is oich the aliyah and the neshama tachlis. So also the elevation of the soul is a goal by itself. So therefore, that belongs together with the. No, that's why it is already considered to be a fulfillment. It's in part the nether, not a tanai. Mashenki pirush Rashi, pshuto shel mikra. Rashi, which gives us the simple meaning of the pasuk, was in avodas odom. He says the avodah von evet pasuk. The service of people, it's the service of a simple slave, who isn't searching for self-benefit, will nor durchführen dem Ratzon Elyon, only once the Ratzon Elyon. So according to Rashi, it is take connected with the Tanai, but not with the actual fulfillment. This is Memaimed Ramaschil, the Shafti B'Sholim, Tovshin Lamed Ches, B'Sichas Chaylev Tovshin Chodalet. Yeah, of course, I realize that this is a difficult, and to sit and learn it well and to explain it well will take a lot more than the time allotted and what we're trying to do over here. So we'll leave it at this.